Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Python tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to talk about for loops. So first, what is a for loop? For loops are used for iterating over a sequence of elements. An example of sequence of elements could be a list. So over here, I have created a list underscore 1, which equals to Johnny, Jenny, and Henry. In order to write a for loop, what we need to do is first write a special command for, followed by a dummy variable. We can put any variable name here, but I'm just putting I in this case, and then followed by a special command in, and then followed by our sequence. In this case is list underscore 1, and then followed by a column. Anything you want to write inside this for loop, you need to give it an indentation. This is how Python knows that the following code belongs to this for loop. So in this case, this I is our dummy variable. In each iteration, it will represent the element of that iteration. So this simple code will simply iterate through this list underscore 1, and then within each iteration, it will print out the value individually, just like that. You can also do some operations. So for example, if I want to convert all the elements of our list to a lowercase letters, I can also do that. I can also create an empty list and then start appending the empty list with the lowercase letter within each iteration. So in this example, I'm creating empty list underscore 2, and then with each iteration, I'm appending the lowercase elements from list underscore 1 to list underscore 2. So in the end, list underscore 2 will have all the lowercase version of the list underscore 1. Another example of sequence of elements could be a dictionary. In this case, if our sequence is dictionary underscore 1, the dummy variable within each iteration will be the key of each element. If you want to extract the value of each key, you can also do it like this, disk underscore 1 square bracket I. So in this case, I'm printing the key and then the value through each iteration. So first element, the key is name, value is Johnny. In the second element, the key is age and value is 18. A string is another example of sequence. You can loop through each letter within a string. So in this particular example, I'm creating a string underscore 1, and if I iterate through the string underscore 1, print out each element individually, I'll get this output. Now let's talk about the range functions. So range function is a way to create a sequence of integers. So for example, let's say n equals to 10, and instead of passing either a list or dictionary or a string, I'm using this range function, range parenthesis n, which is equals to 10. Let's see what will happen. Okay, after we print out each element, you can see that range parenthesis 10 will have a sequence from 0 all the way to 9. So again, by Python convention, most of the time we start with integer 0 and we stop at n minus 1. So in this case, it's 9. We can use this range function to do some summation. For example, if I want to calculate the summation from 1 to 10, I can initialize my sum to be 0. And then from I in range 11, 11 means that the sequence will stop at 10. I'm going to add the summation by itself plus the dummy variable I. This way I keep track the summation within each iteration, and then it will eventually sum up from 1 to 10. So if we print out the summation, you'll see that we get the result of 55. Here is another useful example. Let's say if we want to compute the summation of x squared with x from 1 to 10, we can do the same thing, but the only difference is that in this case, we are no longer just adding I, we are adding I squared. So let's see what the result is, and the result is 385. It means that if we add 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square all the way to 10 square, we will get 385. This range function, if you only pass in one simple values, then you always start with 0. But if you pass two parameters, then it will start with the first parameter and then it stop with the second parameter minus 1. So in this case, if I say for I in range 4, 11, it will start with 4 and then end with 10. If your range function has 3 parameters, then the last parameter representing the increment parameters, it means that I will start my range from 4 to 10, but I will have an increment of 3. So in this example, instead of printing 4 all the way to 10, we are only printing 4, 7, and 10. Okay, let's talk about the break statement. Break statement just means that whenever we are running into this statement, we are going to break out of the loop entirely. So in this case, I have a for loop for I in range 11, meaning that without this break statement, we should be seeing integers from 0 to 10. But you'll see that if I equals to 5, we will execute this break statement, meaning that whenever I equals to 5, we will stop the for loop entirely. So we will only print out integers from 0 to 5. Let's talk about the continue statement. Continue statement is similar to the break statement, but the only difference is that instead of break out the for loop entirely, it only breaks out the current iteration. So for example, over here in my for loop, I'm creating an integer start from 1 all the way to 10, and in the beginning I'm printing the loop number. So loop number will just simply be this I. If I equals to 5, then I'm going to break current iteration. Otherwise, I'm going to print out the value of loop number plus 2. So let's see what happens. If loop number equals to 1, then loop number plus 2 equals to 3. If loop number equals to 2, then loop number plus 2 equals to 4. However, when loop number equals to 5, we do not have this second printout value. This is because when I is equal to 5, we have this continue statement which break the current iteration, but it doesn't break the for loop entirely, so the next iteration still executed. Therefore, the loop number 6 is still printing output, and then loop number plus 2 is equals to 8, and then it print out everything until we reach loop number 10. Finally is a pass statement. Pass statement allows you to create an empty for loop. I'm not too sure when will this be useful, but just for example, if you are still drafting your development and you knew that you want to put a for loop in some place, but you don't want to give the detail of the for loop for now, you can have this pass statement inside your for loop. That way, it won't create any error. If you don't have this pass statement, it will create some error. You can also have nested loops, meaning that you have a for loop inside another for loop. So let's see an example when nested for loops are useful. Let's say I want to create a factorial list. In this list, the first element will be 1 factorial, the second element will be 2 factorial, etc. And then factorial is nothing but multiplication of the integer. So first factorial will just be 1, but second factorial will be 1 times 2, and then 3 factorial will be 1 times 2 times 3, etc. all the way to nth factorial. Okay, if we want to generate this list, we can create first the outer loop, which will loop through each element, and then there's another inner loop. Inner loop will do the multiplication from 1 all the way to the current index of the element. So let's see this an example. I'm setting n equals to 10, meaning that I only want to have 10 elements. And I'm initializing my factorial list as an empty list. for the outer for loop, I'm starting at 1 and then end at n-1. This will make sure that my range will be from 1 to 10. And I'm initialize a temporary variable which equals to 1 initially. In my inner loop, I'm going to have another dummy variable j, and in this case, I'm just going to loop from 1 all the way to I plus 1. Okay, and then inside the inner loop, I'm going to multiply these temporary variables by j so that it will keep multiplying itself until it reaches the current value of I. Let's see the result. Okay, the result will be 1, 2, 6, 24, 120 all the way to about 3 million. And that's pretty much all I want to cover for today's tutorial. If you think the tutorial is useful, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like my video. I'll be very appreciated. Other than that, I will see you in my next video.